Good evening and welcome to the Carolyn Holt Show. I guess the New England Patriots have been listening to my show because I tell you, they certainly did keep their head up yesterday. Now, I am not a major football fan, and I normally don't even watch football, but as I cleaned my house yesterday, I did watch the Super Bowl. And I have to say, I was really impressed by some things. Some things really did catch my eye. And tonight we're going to talk about that on the show because I believe that a lot of life's valuable and important lessons were taught through the Super Bowl on yesterday. So I hope that your team won. Like I said, I'm not a particular fan one way or the other, but the young Atlanta Falcons and the experienced New England Patriots, I have to say, they kept me interested. And so that's why I say I hope that your team did win. Now, I did see some things in the game that I didn't like. I think some of the refereeing was a little suspicious. That's just my opinion because, like I said, I'm not an authority, but I saw some calls that could have gone either way. But that's life, and that's what I want to talk about tonight for all you young people, especially if you're just getting started in your careers and you are not sure about a lot of things because this may be your first job out of college, or maybe you're in high school and you're about to embark on a job that may not even be your career. You're just working to earn extra money until you make a decision about what you really want to do in life. Also, I've noticed that the millennials, they don't really care much about the 9-to-5 process. They're not so much interested in that. They like to make a lot of decisions on their own. And when you have a 9-to-5 job, you're basically there to do as you're asked or told. And it's my understanding that that's just not how the millennials want to do their life and their careers. Now, the phone lines are open, and you can feel free to join me in tonight's conversation about life lessons that affect our careers. And we're going to talk a lot about careers and work and jobs tonight. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can feel free to call me at area code 323-293-3375. Again, that's area code 323-293-3375. Also, one of the sponsors of my show, Math Maze. Math Maze, they are currently conducting a job search. And the great thing about the job search from Math Maze is that you don't have to have an advanced degree. They're looking for people who just have great skills, outgoing personalities, and great skills and talents when it comes to communication. You know, some people are just natural-born communicators, and they're looking for people like that because they will help you to develop a career in sales. And sales is always an excellent training to have in your background. So if you don't have an advanced degree, but you'd like to start a career, make sure you give Mr. Glimp at Math Maze a call because I think it's an excellent opportunity to jumpstart your career in the event that you don't have one, because he's done a lot of the legwork for you. Many times in a sales position, you know, you have to develop everything. But a lot of that has been determined and decided for you. So if you're looking to start a career, even though you don't have an advanced degree, we'll be running the spot during this show tonight, and get the phone number and give him a call, because I think that he can really help you to get your career on, as they say. But back to the Super Bowl and the life lessons. I could tell that the young Atlanta Falcons, they hadn't had the story of the tortoise and the hare told to them. And when I say that, I noticed that they came out, their defense and their offense, they were really on point. You know, they did a really good job. But I think they became comfortable when they had such a great lead. But you always have to keep in mind, young people, that when you are competing against another professional, that professional is called that for a reason. They have many times more experience than you do, and it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. But there is something to be gleaned from the fact that if you, just because you have the lead in life, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And if you don't take that into consideration, you can believe that the task is done too soon. And I think that that's perhaps what happened to the Atlanta Falcons. Like I said, they did great execution in the beginning phase of the game, and they felt that they had defeated a real professional, a real pro, because his execution was not working at the time. And I noticed that the defense really did go in on Tom Brady in the first half. But I didn't see that same level of intensity in the second half. And I think they let up on the scoring. They didn't keep making plays to score. If anything, it seemed to me that they started to play and be very cautious instead of really playing to win. Just because you have a lead in life does not mean that it's easy to keep it. And that was very evident by yesterday's game. So, young people, when you're on a job, just keep that in mind. You may be winning in the beginning, but the beginning is not the entire game. So you have to exert as much effort as you did in the beginning to finish the game. And always remember this, when you're playing a veteran team, or you're dealing with veteran clients or veteran employees, they're pretty savvy. They didn't get to be veterans for no reason. Generally, if you're a veteran at something, it's because you've been around a while, and you've seen a few things, and you can determine from what you are seeing what your moves should be. So just keep that in mind. Actually, there is a dean from the University of Maryland. He has a whole strategy or business lesson that he says we can, in terms of your career, it's something that you can learn from the NFL. Now, normally we don't think about the NFL or the NBA as being great teachers in terms of our careers, but what he says I happen to agree with. Also, I happen to believe that the NBA is a great example for young women. I've always said that. I love basketball. And the reason that I say that the NBA is a great example for young women is because if you miss a shot, you don't have time to go over in your mind, oh my God, how did I not do this well? And I feel embarrassed that I didn't succeed at making the shot. It's all about the next play. And it's that same way in the NFL. And sometimes as women, we can obsess over a bad job or a bad play and not understand that, yes, we perhaps made a mistake. We own that, but we keep going. Many times we just get stuck. And what I'd like to offer tonight is that continue. Don't get stuck. Just continue, because the beginning, as I said earlier, is not the end. And you have to keep that in mind, because it's all about finishing whatever it is that you might be doing. You may not even be working for anybody. You may have your own business. And if you have your own business, anybody who is a business owner will tell you that things are going to show themselves that you never imagined. Even though you did the best plan that you knew how to do, it doesn't mean that you won't be presented with circumstances you just didn't foresee. But as the song says to introduce this show, but you got to keep your head up. And yesterday was a fine example of keeping your head up and keeping your head in the game, because the New England Patriots, they were down by a lot of points. I think 25 points at one point. But they did really stage a great comeback. Now, like I said, I think I saw some things that may have helped them, but that's just my nimble opinion that nobody asked me for. But with that said, it still was an example of how to make a comeback. And the example and the lesson is that you never give up. It is not over until it is over. And if you have to tell yourself that every day to have that understanding, then I think that you should, because it's often people won't tell you about how to be successful. But I'm here tonight to let you know that hard work definitely does pay off. And yes, you're going to encounter some things that you just didn't see coming, but that does not matter. Stick with whatever your game plan is. And as I said, this Dean Gary Cohen, he used some examples of what the NFL does that we can all use in our day-to-day careers. So he says that metaphorically speaking, your business is also about winning games, and there are numerous lessons we can learn from pro football. The first lesson is the team. It all begins with recruiting the right people. These players are critically important to the success of the firm. However, their success is reliant upon excellent coaching. To be a top NFL team, you need players with talent who are developed by the various coaches. It's crucial that the coaching staff lead and get players to perform as a team with the same ultimate mission: to win every game. Every business needs to operate this way. Identify great talent, develop the talent, and teach them how to play as a team. And I know that that's true, and I know that that can be a challenge, because people like notoriety and they like being the star. And young people in particular, they believe if they get hired on a job and they can figure out how to make the job function more efficiently. They think all they have to do is implement whatever their plan whatever their plan is, and that's the end of it. Well, you have to get direction. You just can't go off on your own and make decisions for a company. You have to get direction first. But I've noticed that many times that's not what they do. They believe, okay, I got a great plan, so therefore I'm going to execute. And it doesn't get received the way that they plan. Well, I have a few other tips regarding the NFL and how they run things that I'd like to share with you so that you can stay focused and do the best job on whatever your career path might be. But I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, we'll finish talking about business plans that will really help you to succeed on your job. Stay with me.
Are you looking for an opportunity to earn big money? Math Maze USA is looking for people to train as outside sales consultants. You'll be calling on public and private schools, boys and girls clubs, and the U.S. military. If you're between the age of 18 and 35, a high school graduate with an outgoing personality and great communication skills, we want to hear from you. We offer complete training and great compensation. Call Mr. Glimpf today at 310-753-8830. That's 310-753-8830. Call today.
All right, Mr. Jamie Foxx. Before going to break, I was talking about business lessons because I think that there were a lot of important life lessons from yesterday's Super Bowl game that young people can take to really move forward in their careers or their jobs. And the first one was understanding the team. The second thing is preparation. It says, in football, teams have several days to prepare for the next game. This involves studying the playbook and the films of the other team to glean as much information as possible to create the best game plan to win. This strategy also applies to many aspects of business. If you have a new project, you must conduct the proper research and homework, collecting enough data to create a strong plan or playbook for accomplishing your objective. Now, like I said, the important thing to know that unless you are a person that works totally by yourself, most of the time you're going to be part of a team. So you have to learn to work within the confines of the team and not just be the Lone Ranger and go off and do your own thing and expect great results. The other aspect of the business lesson regarding what the NFL does is that he says calling an audible. Now, it says in a football game, the quarterback may change the play on the spot by calling an audible. Your business is the same way. Even with outstanding preparation, dynamic circumstances may require a pivot or an adjustment to your plan. In business, it's important to be nimble and flexible. So one of the characteristics that you want to keep in mind, young people, is that not only do you need to be flexible, but you need to understand that when the boss makes a decision, even though you think it may not be the right one, you just have to trust the plan because unless it's a brand new company, they have some tried and true things that have worked over the years that they're happy with. And many times, I know I've had enough jobs that I've gone and I've seen things that are in place and wondered to myself, well, why don't they change that? Or why don't they make an adjustment here or an adjustment there? But I recognize this, that they adjust what they want to. It's their job. They need you to do what they ask you to do. So if they don't come to you and say, we want to change something or we want to make an adjustment, then they probably aren't looking for your input. But if they do come to you and say that we're changing something, then be flexible and listen to what the new game plan is. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is execution. And I used to wonder, well, if they're watching film and they know all of these things about each other, how does anybody ever win? Because if I know exactly what you're going to do as a team, then I'm well prepared, and so I know what to do to stop your progress. Well, it says flawless execution requires excellent communication between members of your team, with each anticipating the other's move. This means playing well together, supporting each other, and maintaining focus. If someone makes a mistake, don't assign blame. Work harder together as a team and support each member to keep mistakes to a minimum and improve each day. Well, I don't know about you, but I've worked with coworkers who could not wait to point out how you've made a mistake and how this is literally the end of the world. Well, you can't really listen to those people because they are generally not the final decision makers, and a mistake is not uncommon in work. And so you just have to make the adjustment and move forward. So don't let a mistake affect your execution. Now, the last one I really like, it says learn from losses, as I'm sure the young Atlanta Falcons are thinking about today. I think they probably learned something in the loss to the New England Patriots. It says even great NFL teams usually lose a few games in a season. But during the regular season, there's no time to wallow in a loss. They have to prepare for the next week's game. It's the same for you in your business. You will not always win, but it's important to learn from your loss or setback and make adjustments to your strategy for future opportunities. You must get over any loss and begin preparing for that next game. The next time you watch an NFL game, think about the work ethic involved in preparation, potential pivots, and overall execution. Put these practices in place and put your business team in a position to win. Just think about it like this. If you are an employee, you don't want to be the weak link in the success of the overall business. So think about that when you show up for work every day, that this is serious and you are important, because if you were not, you wouldn't be there. Generally, companies don't waste time on people that is not of value to them. So if you have a steady job, keep some of these things in mind. As a matter of fact, there is a Peter Jones, and he does the Job Network. I guess it's for the Los Angeles Times, and he writes about 10 career lessons that you should learn in your 20s. And I took a look at these, and I think that they are very important, and not only in your 20s, but as your career expands, I think these lessons will really help you. It says the number one thing to keep in mind is networking, because networking really matters. Now, I must say that in my 20s, I did not know this, and even in my 30s, I did not know this, but I have learned. So networking matters. It says you may hate social media and hate small talk even more, but social networks are proven to be a crucial factor in professional success. Put some time and effort into broadening yours. Stand by the proverbial water cooler, even if you hate it, and cultivate as wide and diverse a network as you can. And that's true, because you don't know who in your network can be the main pillar of support to your success. So think about that. Another important lesson is to keep learning. The second you decide you're done learning or know enough, it's probably the second you become obsolete in your industry and in today's economy. Don't be left behind. Be the old dog that learns new tricks, acquires new skills, reads up on all the current trends, even if it weren't important for success. Your life will still be richer for it. And many times that's the mistake that not only young people make, but we make, period, is that, oh my God, I've been doing this for years. I already know it. I can do it with my eyes closed. And while that is important to you, there's some information, I guess, ARP. And ARP says that that's a mistake that people over 40, they make, because by then they probably have a lot of experience at something. And it says that if you're over 40, you need to watch your mouth, because midlife job seekers can be their own worst enemies during interviews. Among the worst things to say is, I've got 25 years of experience. Although applicants might believe such statements make them seem ideal candidates, they are more likely to backfire and make them sound ancient. A recruiter suggests applicants concentrate on their most recent experience and how it applies to the company at which they're seeking employment. Now, I know if you're in your 20s, you probably don't have 25 years of experience at anything. But however many years you have, just keep in mind they're only interested in what matters right now, what you're doing right now. But I've heard people talk about how many years of experience they have. Well, that's nice, but you don't have to tell everybody. You can keep that to yourself. Another lesson for 20-year-olds is to remember that failure is productive. You can learn something from failing. It says, don't give up the next time you fail. Think of each failure as an opportunity or a beginning. What can you learn or improve for the next time? What can you try differently? Learn how to dust yourself off and keep moving forward. Now, I know that's easy to say, oh, well, just dust yourself off and keep moving forward. It's not easy to do. So you have to think about the process. And the most important part of the process, I believe, to keep things moving and to move forward is to not fixate on where you failed. Acknowledge that you failed, but don't fixate on where you failed. Another lesson is teamwork. He says here that teamwork is dream work. Most potential bosses are going to want you to demonstrate that you can be a team player. Make sure to build the ability to manage others, to delegate, and to build positive working relationships with your colleagues that help you do your best work and achieve your loftiest goals. Well, we just talked about that in terms of the NFL. The NFL is big on teamwork, not only the NFL, but the NBA and the NHL and all the rest of them, where team is important. Teamwork is always important. The next lesson is organization. Organization is key. You won't get very far if your desk is buried under a pile of messy papers and your time management skills are non-existent. Start working on prioritizing, making a system, and setting yourself up to get things done in a timely and tidy fashion. Demonstrate that you can meet deadlines without sacrificing the quality of your work. Now, I must say that I don't totally agree with this one. A lot of times, people feel that if your desk is spotless and in order, then you have really done an excellent job at work. And I know for a fact that I have had some jobs, and one of them was in television, where that absolutely was not the truth. The person who was my boss, they did have a spotless desk, everything in order, and they did absolutely no work. And my desk was somewhat messy. It looks about like how things look right now. But I knew where everything was. I could find things in my mess. And I remember going on vacation. And while I was on vacation, my boss came and cleaned my desk. And when I returned to work, I was furious. Well, first of all, I was furious because I saw it as an invasion of my personal space. Now, I know a lot of people don't see it that way, but I don't need you to come and tidy up my desk. I know how to do that. I do understand it can be bothersome to look at. I totally get that. But you don't know why I have what I have on my desk, and you certainly don't know the proper place to put it. So this person took it upon themselves, because they didn't like the way my desk looked, to organize it to benefit them, they felt. But I had a long discussion with them when I returned, and explained that I would never come to their desk and move anything, because it's their desk, and they work from it however they do. So I'm not in complete agreement that if your desk is messy, that you don't know how to prioritize and that you're not getting any work done. Generally, for me, anyway, it meant that I had a lot of work to do, and perhaps even needed some help to get some of it done. So I don't think that a messy desk is always a sign that you're disorganized and that you're not doing a good job. That's just my personal opinion. Other people have a different opinion, and that's fine, but that's how I see it. The next lesson is practice awareness and acumen. This is something you can beef up anytime and might just prove invaluable. Learn what makes a company or industry tick, what works and doesn't. What are the newest trends, the deepest seated problems? If you can show that you really get what a company is trying to do and achieve, then you're halfway to getting hired. Well, that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, is that before you get to offering this up, do make sure that you get hired, and do make sure that you perform the job that you've been asked to do before you take this leap and this step. That would be my advice. The next lesson is to cultivate integrity. Now, what does that mean? Cultivating integrity. Well, Peter Jones says that it means don't be petty or dishonest. Be fair and responsible in all of your dealings and activities. This is seen as a sign of maturity, self-confidence, and trustworthiness, and that's worth a lot in the hiring process. Well, I would agree with that. It is important to be seen as a trustworthy and honest person, and especially if this is your first job. You want to, in gaining experience to move further in life, you really want to not only come across, but you want to be an honest person, one that can be trusted. So keep that in mind. It's important to cultivate integrity in your 20s. The next lesson is problem solving. Now, I think this is a good one. It says that you'll need this skill throughout your life, not just on the job. But do find a way to demonstrate to hires that you can attack a problem, find a solution, and get it done. Prove that you can go the extra distance every time. Well, I think that is something valuable to keep in mind. Generally, you get to try new positions at your job by demonstrating this. I remember one time I was hired to do one thing, but because I could write well, I was asked to do something else, and one of my coworkers came to me and said, "Well, how did you get assigned that particular project?" And I told them that I happened to write something and turn it in to the boss, and they noticed my writing skill, and they asked me to stop doing this other project that everybody hated, and they gave me something new to do. So if you have talent and an opportunity presents itself to where you can show your talent, then by all means do so. If you're asked never to show your talent again, then so be it. But more than likely, if you do a good job, you'll be rewarded for it, and you will perhaps get to do an aspect of the job that you really like, as opposed to just doing what's asked of you. But if you're a good problem solver, not only as the piece says at your job, but if you just can manage to do this in life, that's an invaluable characteristic and talent to have, because problems are always lurking. So if you're good at problem solving, then you are of great value. The next lesson is be aware. And it says, diversity is a hugely important issue in the workplace. You should be as sensitive as possible and as aware as possible of other people and other cultures, and be prepared to demonstrate this in your job search. No excuses for ignorance or intolerance. Now, what I have to say about this will probably surprise you. And I think diversity really is important, and I think that it does not often get addressed on the level that it should until a major faux pas happens. And then major corporations find themselves scrambling, trying to figure out, in terms of PR, how they're going to handle situations relative to diversity. So my thought about dealing with other cultures and dealing with diversity on a job is empathy. I don't think you can beat empathy. And if you are an empathetic person, it is highly unlikely that you're going to insult people, because what you're going to do first is always think before you say something. Now, that's not to say that when things need to be pointed out that you shouldn't, but you should certainly think before you speak. And that's not just for when you're in your 20s. That's throughout life. I guess I'm surprised many times with the insensitivity that I see relative to diversity. Just last year, not this year, last year when the Oscars were presented and people were, really up in arms that there were great movies that had been done by African Americans or black people, and they didn't receive any recognition for it. Well, unfortunately, I think that the industry has always been not in step with what's going on in society. So in order to change that or fix that, there has to be some empathy. And I think one of the things that they tried to do new this year was to add members that I guess they had excluded in the past. So if you're going to have a diverse workplace, just take a little time to work hard to understand others. It does not mean that you have to address every little petty thing, but the broad overall picture, I think you have to be sensitive to all people and their culture or whatever it is their differences might be. It doesn't mean that you have to be in agreement with any of it, but you certainly do have to show some sensitivity. So just keep that in mind as you go about your work. And the last area that Mr. Jones suggests you should learn as a 20-year-old is to be open to trying new things. It says make sure you have a willingness to try things different ways, to work alone or as a team, to work remotely, work in an office, to work on multiple things at once. Adaptability is a valuable skill that will serve you both on the job and in your life. And that's true. I don't know if you've ever had a coworker that if you changed anything regarding how they did their job day to day, they could not function. Well, I unfortunately have had those kinds of coworkers where they just couldn't adapt. And I say this, many times businesses do offer training where you can get courses related to what it is that you do. And I suggest this, that as a young person, if the company that you work for is willing to offer up additional training so that you can learn skills that you may not learn on your own, do take the opportunity. And even if they don't, that might be something that you want to invest in, because you will find in your career as you move forward in life that flexibility and adaptability will take you a long way. Now, we're going to go to break, and we're going to wrap up some of the life lessons that I thought yesterday's game really brought to the forefront. So stay with me. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for an opportunity to earn big money? MathMaze USA is looking for people to train as outside sales consultants. You'll be calling on public and private schools, boys and girls clubs, and the U.S. military. If you're between the age of 18 and 35, a high school graduate with an outgoing personality and great communication skills, we want to hear from you. We offer complete training and great compensation. Call Mr. Glimpf today at 310-753-8830. That's 310-753-8830. Call today.
If you're gonna brag, make sure it's your money you fund. Depend on no one else to give you what you want.
All right, Miss Independent. I love that song, though, because it encourages women to kind of get out of the emotional stuff and get out there and make it happen. And as an independent woman, you can do that. So I like that song. When we went to break, I was talking about young people and some of the lessons that they can learn in order to help their career path stay on the right trajectory for whatever it is that they're hoping to achieve. Work habits, though, you have to think about that. What do you have some really bad work habits? And when I think about that question, the answer, not for me necessarily, but for some coworkers I've had, the answer is yes. They have some very bad work habits, and if you have some of these, maybe you ought to get rid of them. Okay. Laziness. Now, most people, I don't think that they are lazy. I think they go to work and they do whatever it is that they feel is enough, and that's it. But Kate Lopez of the Job Network says that laziness, if you're shifting or shirking responsibilities because you don't want the aggravation or want something easier while someone else does the heavy lifting, people notice. They'll either think you're incapable of accomplishing tasks or that you just don't care. The solution is make the effort to go above and beyond. Offer to help people with tasks, assuming you're not ignoring your own in the meantime. Take initiative to develop new responsibilities and talk to your boss to see what else you can be doing to expand your role. Wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense to me. But sometimes, you can be considered lazy for all kinds of reasons that perhaps are not necessarily true. So if it appears that you are lazy and you are not, then you do and should defend yourself. Because sometimes people feel that working very long hours makes it seem like you're not a lazy person and that you're getting over and above what's required of you done. And that's not necessarily true. Just because people work long hours does not mean it's always productive. Sometimes they're just slow, and it takes them a long time to finish whatever it is that they're doing. So don't let people put that on you that, if you're not here at the crack of dawn and here way past sign off, then you're a lazy person, because that's not true either. But if you are a lazy person and you're not pulling your weight, then you need to do something about that. So keep that in mind. Don't be lazy. Another thing to keep in mind is don't overpromise. If you say you're going to get something done at a certain time, you need to make good on your promises. If you don't, then it undermines your reliability and trustworthiness. The solution is to set realistic priorities. If you originally said something could be done by Tuesday, but now it's looking like there's no way it'll be done by Thursday, be upfront about it and say, I'm struggling with something. Talk with your boss to prioritize tasks so that you can manage expectations. And if you need help, ask for it. Better organization and planning up front can also help. But that's true. When you tell people that they can expect a report on a certain day, then they begin to shape their day based on, especially if they need your report in order to finish whatever it is that they are doing. Make sure that if you're not going to finish it when you said, that they should be the first to know. Many times people change their mind and they just don't bother to let others know that they've changed their mind. So keep that in mind. because also being inconsiderate is a bad work habit. Being inconsiderate of others. It says this one is especially problematic in crowded or open plan workplaces. My office has an open plan sea of cubicles, and that makes it bad for poor or obnoxious office behavior. Things like being loud, eating strong-smelling food, or leaving messes everywhere you go fall into this category. Will you get fired for this kind of transgression? Not likely. Will it make your colleagues like you less and damage your reputation? Quite possibly. The solution is, whenever you find yourself having a phone conversation in a public place, ask yourself, would this annoy me? In fact, would this annoy me is a good rule of thumb in general. It's important to keep in mind that work behavior is public behavior. And, the cubicle setting it's a very difficult workstation to have when you're in a little cubicle and then the next person is very close to you. It's almost impossible to have meaningful phone conversations. I know it is for me because I speak very loudly, unfortunately, in a small room. That's not a good thing. And so it was always difficult for me working in a cubicle to get work done where I had to be on the phone because my voice was too loud. So I know that you really do have to work on this. But there are those people who have truly perfected talking on the phone in a very soft voice. I really admire them because I can't do that. But there are women I've worked with, they can talk all day on the phone and never speak above a whisper. And I just don't know how they can do that. And the person on the other end can hear them. And they can manage to get their jobs done, but spend the day talking on the phone. I just don't know how they do it because I don't have that kind of I guess that's an indoor voice. I don't have that. I wished I did though, so I'm going to work on it. That's going to be one of the things I'll work on in the coming years. How to sound much softer in a limited amount of space. And the last thing I want to talk about is losing your temper. Now, losing your temper seems to be just acceptable for some reason in society these days. There's just no manners when it comes to your temper. But in a job setting, you can lose your job as a result of your temper. So my suggestion is, so that you can keep a job, is to watch your temper. Sometimes people know what triggers you, and many times they don't. But it doesn't give you the right to just flare up and say whatever you want to say. It says being professional means handling disappointments or problems with a degree of calm. If you yell, scream, or otherwise show rage at work, that can very quickly earn you a reputation as a hothead that no one wants to deal with, for fear of risking the red rage. Temper tantrums are never acceptable for adults in a work environment, no matter how calm and productive you feel after you've unburdened yourself and the rage has subsided. The solution is find ways to channel that anger into temporary zen so that you can move on with your day and deal with the anger later in a more appropriate way out of work. Try learning some meditation techniques that you can reach for when you feel the anger bubbling up in your brain. Well, even if you don't feel it bubbling up, it is not professional to unleash rage at work. you're there to get a job done and to accomplish something for whatever the company is that you're working for. So always keep that in mind. Now, I know that some of these things may be difficult, especially if you're a young person. It might be difficult to implement the things that I've shared with you tonight, but give it the best shot that you can, because if you want to have a long and prosperous professional career, most of these things you're just going to have to learn how to do. And that's what our job is here every week. We're helping you to move from misery to magnificence and from subpar to spectacular. So if you'll implement some of these things, you'll be a spectacular person. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And please join me again next week for another show. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for an opportunity to earn big money? MathMaze USA is looking for people to train as outside sales consultants. You'll be calling on public and private schools, boys and girls clubs, and the U.S. military. If you're between the age of 18 and 35, a high school graduate with an outgoing personality and great communication skills, we want to hear from you. We offer complete training and great compensation. Call Mr. Glimpf today at 310-753-8830. That's 310-753-8830. Call today.